The invitation arrived on a Wednesday, black cardstock with silver foil lettering. It announced the Hawthorne family's annual reunion, to be held in San Francisco. I stared at it, running my fingers along the elegant print, as old memories of eye rolls, snide remarks, and forced smiles echoed in my mind. My name is Maren Hawthorne, though these days in the business world I go by Maren Blake. 15 years ago, I was the family letdown, the artsy one who turned down a slot at Hawthorne Investments to study hotel management in Portland, the black sheep with a dream and no real prospects. My phone buzzed. It was my cousin Serena. I answered. "Maren," she sang too brightly. "Hope you got the invite?" I did. "Well, I just wanted to say, this year's gathering is very upscale. The Celestia Resort is quite refined. You understand, right?" I looked out at the Los Angeles skyline from the penthouse office of Blake Hospitality Group. I nearly laughed. The Celestia? My first 5-star resort. But the Hawthornes didn't know that. "Are you saying I don't fit in, Serena?" "Aw, don't be like that," she said, her tone sticky sweet. "It's just, we'll have celebrities, tech founders, a senator or two. You know how appearances matter." By appearances, she meant me. Couldn't have her influential friends realizing her cousin once worked reception? "And who picked the venue?" "I did, obviously," she said proudly. "Dad said I have a knack for luxury spaces. The Celestia is the top spot in the Bay Area. I had to call in serious favors to land it." I nearly choked. The favor had come through our booking site. I'd approved it personally, at 40% above our premium rate. "That must have been tricky," I said. "Well, not everyone has my pull," she gloated. "The owner, Maren Blake, is reclusive, but their team was so cooperative when they heard the Hawthorne name." "Of course they were. I told them to roll out the red carpet." "Anyway," Serena said, "I'm sure you get it. Maybe next year, if you've moved up from that boutique motel in Silver Lake." "That motel launched my entire empire. But sure, Serena, maybe next year." "That motel," Serena mocked. "It was actually my pilot property, where I tested and refined the innovations that would later make Blake Hospitality Group a disruptor in the luxury hotel world. But the Hawthornes stopped paying attention to my career long ago." "Something like that," I had told her. After hanging up, I leaned back in my leather chair, the hum of Los Angeles traffic faint beneath the double-glazed windows. Memories rushed in. 15 years ago, I'd graduated from the University of Oregon with a degree in hotel management, brimming with ideas and zero support from my family. "You're going to clean rooms for a living?" my father had boomed. "No Hawthorne wears a name tag." But I did, and I carried luggage, scrubbed floors, handled irate guests, and trained staff. I didn't just want to run hotels, I wanted to reinvent them. And to do that, I had to understand every inch of how they worked. Within 4 years, I opened my first property, a boutique stay in Silver Lake called the Blue Lantern. It sold out every weekend. Now, at 34, I own 21 high-end resorts across 5 countries. The Celestia, their reunion venue, was my crown jewel. A fusion of California coastal design and sustainability tech, it won Luxury Resort of the Year twice. And now, somehow, my family thought it was too good for me. My phone buzzed again. It was Marcus, my assistant. "Reunion contract needs your signature. Want me to bring it up?" I typed back with a grin. "No need. I've got plans for this one." I opened my laptop and began finalizing the adjustments. If they thought I wasn't fit to attend, they were about to experience what exclusion looks like. When the outsider signs your guest list. Every decision for the reunion would pass through my hands. The lighting, the music, the chef's tasting menu, even the ambient scent used in the lobby. It was time for a quiet spectacle. Memories burned in my mind, like when they sat me at the kids' table well into my 20s, or worse, Serena's wedding, where she accidentally had me seated next to the valet team. She'd said I'd feel more at home. I'd owned 9 hotels by then. They never asked questions. They never looked past the old image of me. Only my younger sister Camille had stayed in touch, though she never knew how far I'd come. She called just as I was finishing the arrangements. "Maren," she said gently, "Serena told me she asked you not to come. I'm so sorry." "Don't be," I replied, signing the final contract with a smile. Actually, I have a favor. Can you make sure everyone arrives at exactly 7 p.m.? Why, what's happening? Let's just say Serena isn't the only one with connections at the Celestia. The next 2 weeks flew by. I oversaw everything, down to the floral centerpiece shade. If they were going to exclude me from my own resort, I was going to give them a night to remember. The Hawthorne family demanded luxury. I was about to give them a show they'd never forget. The night before the reunion, I stood quietly in the lobby of the Celestia, watching my staff polish the marble until it reflected like glass. Light from the crystal chandeliers danced across the room, illuminating every detail of the coastal-inspired interior. White stone columns, subtle gold trim, sea glass accents. Everything was flawless. Marcus appeared beside me, tablet in hand. All arrangements are confirmed. New signage will be revealed at exactly 7:15 p.m. tomorrow. Are you sure about this? I didn't hesitate. I thought of Serena's smug voice on the phone, of the years of microaggressions and cold shoulders. Absolutely. After all, it's not every day I get to welcome my family to my own resort. I smiled, already picturing their faces when the truth hit. Tomorrow would change everything. At exactly 6:45 p.m. the next evening, I stood in my private suite on the top floor, watching security feeds of the arrivals. They came like clockwork, designer handbags, heels clicking, Rolexes gleaming, everyone trying to outshine each other in a shallow pageant of wealth. Serena waltzed in wearing red Valentino, barking orders like she was management. She posed by the floral display, camera ready. My father's black Bentley rolled up next, trailed by luxury cars filled with aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't seen since I was the failure of the family. Everything's prepped, Marcus said, glancing down at his screen. Staff knows their cues. Want security on alert? I shook my head. No need. The Hawthorns wouldn't dare ruin their own illusion of elegance. I adjusted my slate gray suit, custom Armani. Not that any of them would believe I knew the brand, let alone owned more of it than half the room. Let them get comfortable, I said. This is going to be fun. In the grand ballroom, the reunion buzzed with champagne and self-congratulations. Serena bragged near the fountain, reliving her effort to book the venue. My father circled with old colleagues, no doubt boasting about his stock portfolio. My cousins posed by the Celestia signage like it somehow validated their status. At 7:10 p.m., right on schedule, the hotel manager approached Serena. Ms. Hawthorne, I'm afraid there's a small issue with your reservation. Serena's polished expression soured. Excuse me, I arranged this directly with your corporate office. Yes, ma'am, the manager replied. It's just, the owner had a few special instructions for this evening. Serena laughed, waving a manicured hand. Please, I highly doubt M. Blake has time to meddle in event details. A hush fell over the room as I stepped forward from the back of the ballroom. Actually, I said calmly, M. Blake does concern herself with quite a few things. If you felt that moment of quiet victory deep in your chest, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what happens next at that reunion will leave everyone speechless. Silence fell like a curtain. Every head in the ballroom turned toward me. The forgotten cousin, the so-called embarrassment, now standing at the entrance of the most elite resort on the West Coast, dressed in a tailored suit that probably cost more than Serena's handbag collection. Maren? My father's voice cut through the stillness. What are you doing here? Serena snapped, trying to recover. She told me I couldn't afford to attend, I said flatly, stepping forward. She was afraid I'd embarrass the family. Serena's face flushed red. This is a private function. I'll have security escort you out. No, I said calmly. You won't. At that moment, Marcus, standing discreetly by the AV table, tapped a button on his tablet. The massive LED screen behind the ballroom's stage lit up. First, the Celestia Resort logo appeared, followed by bold letters that read, Owned and operated by Maren Hawthorne Blake, founder and CEO, Blake Hospitality Group. A gasp echoed across the ballroom. Glass clinked. Somewhere near the fountain, someone dropped a fork. Serena's champagne flute slipped from her hand and shattered against the marble floor. That's not possible, she stammered. Would you like to see my business card? I offered sweetly, holding up the sleek black leather case in my hand. Or maybe the property deed? I gave the portfolio a gentle pat. My father stepped forward, eyes wide, voice low. You own this place? And 20 other properties, I nodded. Though this one is special, it's where I began my career, back when you said I was throwing my life away cleaning hotel rooms. The memories surfaced again. Serena sneering at my housekeeping uniform, my aunts whispering that I'd settled, cousins cropping me out of photos like I didn't belong. All those years, I continued, letting the words sink in, you looked down on me, but you never once looked up. I turned to Serena. The tiny motel in Silver Lake you loved to mock? That was my prototype, my innovation lab, the foundation of what this industry now calls the gold standard. Marcus stepped forward, placing elegant navy folders into the hands of key family members. These, he said, contain the real story behind Blake Hospitality Group and the invoice for tonight's event. Serena grabbed hers, rifling through it with trembling hands. Her eyes widened. This is above market. About 40% above, I confirmed. A family surcharge, if you will. From the back of the room, Camille burst into laughter. A few others followed, awkward at first, then bolder as the tension cracked. My father looked at me, jaw tight. Why didn't you ever tell us? I met his gaze. Would you have believed me? He said nothing. No one did. But in that moment, the silence spoke volumes. 15 years ago, you told me no daughter of yours would ever work in a hotel, I said, my voice steady but clear. Well, you were right about one thing. I don't work in a hotel. I paused, then smiled. I own them. Around the room, every digital screen came to life. Panoramic visuals of my resorts worldwide flickered across the ballroom. The golden hues of our overwater villas in the Maldives, the snow-draped elegance of our Swiss alpine retreat, the towering grandeur of our glass-fronted property in Dubai, where the skyline stretched like a crown across the horizon. As for tonight's reunion, I added smoothly, your reservation hasn't been canceled. You're welcome to stay. In fact, I've arranged a private tour of the property. I think it's time you all saw what a career in customer service really looks like. Serena took a step forward, her polished persona cracking. Maren, we never meant. I cut her off, gently but firmly. Yes, you did. Every snide joke, every time you left me out of the photo, every time I was treated like the help. I looked around the room, voice lifting just slightly. But while you were busy upholding your status, I was busy building a legacy. Welcome to the Celestia. The crowd stirred. My team will escort you to your upgraded suites. Though, Serena, I added, turning slightly, your room had to be adjusted last minute due to a high-profile booking. We had to place you in one of our standard queen rooms. Her face flushed a deep crimson. The same room category she once mocked me for cleaning. As the family followed staff to their suites, some in awkward silence, others nervously whispering, my father stayed behind. I was wrong, he said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. About everything. I studied him for a long moment. The man who once belittled my choices now looked small, unsure. Yes, I said quietly, but do you want to know the best part of owning 21 hotels, Dad? He raised an eyebrow. I've got 21 presidential suites. You can pick any one of them to stay in while you figure out how to make things right. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Where'd you learn to negotiate like that? Probably the same place I learned real leadership, by starting at the bottom, something this family never had to do. That night, after the private tours and quiet conversations had ended, I stood in my penthouse suite, overlooking the San Francisco skyline. Marcus entered with a folder in hand. Tonight's final numbers, he said. Your family seems humbled. I laughed. Amazing what a little perspective, and a room without a view, can do. Are you going to tell them, he asked, about Paris, Tokyo? I turned to the desk where the contract sat, ready to be signed. Not yet, I smiled. Let them be surprised. The Celestia was just the beginning. If you've loved watching Maren reclaim her power, don't forget to subscribe, because in the next chapter the world gets even bigger. And the family? They're not done learning yet. Let's save something for next year's reunion, I said aloud to no one, the city lights of San Francisco glittering below me. Every smart hotelier knows Repeat guests are the best kind. I leaned against the floor-to-ceiling window of my penthouse, my reflection framed by the skyline I used to only dream of. The journey from scrubbing baseboards to signing international development deals hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Success, I realized, was never about vengeance. It wasn't about proving my family wrong. It was about proving myself right. And sometimes the sweetest kind of revenge isn't cold at all. It's warm, luxurious, served with a rooftop breakfast and a view that takes your breath away. My phone buzzed. Serena. Can we talk tomorrow, please? I smiled, typed back a simple line. Of course, your breakfast reservation is at 9 a.m. I own that restaurant too. There was power in simplicity, not just in money or property or prestige, but in being seen, finally, for who I truly was. Not the help, not the outsider, not the family joke, but Maren Blake, the woman who built something real. The woman who wasn't invited to the reunion because she was too busy hosting it. As I looked out at the city and the glowing signage of the Celestia below, I felt it in my chest, that sense of calm, of closure, of purpose. Tomorrow would bring the next chapter in the Hawthorne family's story. Not one born from old money or empty pride, but from something earned. Because at the end of the day, every great hotel knows the secret. It's not just about offering a bed. It's about giving people something they'll never forget. And tonight, my family would remember. If you've made it this far, thank you for walking this journey with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and tell me what you would have said if you were in my shoes that night. Would you have stayed quiet? Would you have made the same choices? Or would you have done something completely different? Let's talk about it. I read every comment, and your perspective matters more than you know. And if you felt even a flicker of inspiration from my story, hit that subscribe button. There's more ahead, more moments of truth, more family twists, more growth, because this wasn't just about a reunion. It was about reclaiming space that was always mine to begin with. Here's what I've learned. Sometimes the world and the people in it won't see you until you've built something so undeniable they can't look away. That's okay. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. Let them label you the underdog, because quietly, consistently, and powerfully, you can rise. Start small, start where they think you're nothing, and use every slight, every snide remark, every exclusion as bricks in your foundation. You don't need revenge. You just need results. And when that day comes, when they walk into a room you own and don't even realize it yet, smile. Not because you beat them, but because you never needed their permission to shine. Your worth was never theirs to decide. So build, dream, show up. And when you do, I'll be here, cheering you on from the penthouse.